you go.
After yoga, we'll be having another look at it later in the programme.
Dear, 7:32. Let's look at the front pages. The Times focuses on the PM's upcoming budget. The state can't fix all your problems, he says.
The Guardian focuses on the UN's Secretary's comments that we will be doomed without a climate pact.
The Mail has an exclusive about Lord Lucan, as 3 Cluedo cards were left in the car he abandoned. That can't be new.
Well, apparently, yes, it was. The police never really revealed it. It's just been found out, 50 years on. The Express's front pages says, ditch the triple lock and we won't vote Tory again.
The Telegraph has the PM and the Chancellor's plan to reveal a stealth tax raid on pensions.
And the Mirror focuses on Matt Hancock, missing the Tory conference last month because he was filming SAS Celebrity Who Dares Wins.
And so why is he a celebrity all of a sudden? I don't understand. The Sun has Patsy Kensit joining EastEnders.
So that really is a mix of front pages, actually. It really is, isn't it?
Must be Saturday.
Yeah, well, Claire Muldoon and Christopher Biggins are with us. So we start, Claire, with Rishi Sunak warning us all that we can't expect the state to fix all our problems.
I mean, there's no doom and gloom generally with Muldoon, but today, the front page of the Times, state can't fix all your problems, says Sunak.
Well,
what can the state fix? You know, what are they there to do? They're elective parliamentarians, there to do a job, and they should be doing the best they possibly can. And all I'm getting, the optic from this, is the rhetoric and the narrative from Number 10 and the rest of the Conservatives to say, look, we're putting a warning out now. We're blaming everything on Liz Truss. Quote from here. She was only in power for 44 days. What did she do that was so bad in that time? And he is now saying, look, we want to regain, you know, the Conservative votes. We want to regain power in 2 years' time with the next general election. Well, I'm sorry, mate, but you've got one of the ex-cabinet ministers, not your ex-cabinet minister, okay, going away into the jungle, doing celebrity dishes. You've got, you know, an extremely amount of PR that has to be done here to rectify, to put even more than a band-aid over what's happened, because it has been catastrophic.
You were talking about the rhetoric, and that's what seems to... Everything that comes out of Rishi Sunak's mouth at the moment, or a statement from Number 10, is doom and gloom. It's all so low, and...
But that's what we're in. We're in a global mess. America's in a mess.
It's expectation management, isn't it? Because otherwise...
exactly what it is.
But also, don't forget, Conservatives...
He's supposed to be a leader, Stephen.
Yeah, but they want a smaller state. That's the whole point of Conservative. Lower taxes, smaller state, people being more self-sufficient. That's a Conservative... That's the heart of Conservative.
I've said on this programme before, and it seems to be so natural, I can't believe that it has not been taken up, but we're in a terrible, terrible situation in this country. I mean, it's awful. The winter is going to be more than discontent. Why don't the parties get together? Because I'm fed up with people shouting across the Houses of Parliament at each other. It's a personal thing, it's an ego thing. Whereas they should be actually doing something, both parties, all the parties.
The greater good.
Exactly.
Yeah, but they're not.
They're not.
And you know, and
it's a bit like a wartime government, you know, a coalition.
Well, that's what should have happened during the pandemic. It should have been a cross-party global response to everything that was happening.
Yeah.
People run this country down constantly, and they blame everything on certain things that have happened, certain ways people have voted. We've done it. We are the electorate. We have done this. But they fail to realise that America are going through economic crashes at the moment, runaway inflation. We've got stagflation here. The rest of Europe have actually got a higher inflation than we have there at 10.7. I think we are at 10.2. So it's not just us. We can't be myopic in this and think it is just us. But I don't think, as a leader, as a statesman, it's helpful for the leader to come out and say, you know, well, the state can't fix all of it. They seem to not be able to fix anything. They can't satisfy the immigration policy that is set in law. They can't enforce the police don't seem to be enforcing the public order bill that can remove the climate activists from disrupting the roads, disrupting the work, disrupting the country. They don't seem to be doing anything.
But I would be a bit unfair. He's only been in power a couple of weeks.
Well, don't come out and say that. I mean, I agree with completely what you've said in that it is management of expectations. But comments like this, and then in the interview in the inside pages, I mean, he just goes on and on and on with, we can't do this, we can't do that, we can't do this. Well, what can you do? Instead of telling us what you can't do, please forge a plan and tell us what you can. And I'm not
I suppose the argument would be from them is, well, that's what we're going to get on November the 17th in the autumn statement, is it? Then they're going to tell us what they can do and how they're going to do it.
Well, I hope
It will
so,
be-
'cause at least that would be positive news, wouldn't
Well, it's going to hurt.
Will it?
It's going to hurt.
It'd be nice to hear some
Yes, yes, I agree. You're right.
Can we move on to The Crown?
Yes.
Because it's fascinating,
Yes,
isn't it,
please.
Christopher, that Tony Blair and John Major have come out and said what is being fictionalised now is fiction and it's not
Well,
fact.
I mean,
it's hurtful.
what they're saying in the Daily Telegraph front page is that there's a scene with the two prime ministers with the king, King Charles, who's then Prince Charles, of course, involving them in a plot against his mother. Well, this is actually disgraceful. And they're saying this is absolutely not true. And yet Netflix is producing this in their show. And we talking earlier, we all loved the first two series. You know, Claire Foy being wonderful as the Queen, and it was fantastic. Now I think it's becoming sort of a Walt Disney fantasy film.
or a soap opera.
Or a soap opera.
It's looking like a soap
Pat
opera now.
Kensett will be in the next one.
Yeah. And the script is bad.
But wasn't it a soap opera before? We just didn't realise how it
No, well, I think
operated.
we were all caught up in the fact that it was lovely, the royal family, and how nice they were, and how wonderful our Queen, which we all know how wonderful she was. You know, and it was all fantastic. But now, it's getting down to the nitty-gritty. I mean, what's going to happen when Diana dies in the series? I mean, you know, that's going to
Well,
be
they are
fascinating.
good. They've been filming at the Outer
Yes.
Tunnel in Paris.
Yeah, they have.
So, and I just think it's more uncomfortable now because they're now portraying characters
That we know.
Yeah.
And we've had more access to than the public had access to the Queen during the
Absolutely.
wartime times.
And it does seem to be very hurtful, the way that they are playing with those characters.
Yes, and I think it's very hurtful for the remaining royals, like the King.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to come out
To include in the script a scene where Prince Charles is asking the Prime Minister, who is apparently, I think, John Major, to do something about to remove the Queen so that he can become king.
Yeah.
If John Major says that absolutely did not happen, it's appalling, isn't
It
it,
is.
that it's being...
Well, you know, it's all hype and pomp and ceremony, isn't it, really? I mean, it is a soap opera now. And Netflix don't want to put a disclaimer. I find this quite interesting. They don't want to put a disclaimer in to say it's based on fact and fiction. Do you remember when Michael Jackson released his Thriller video at the end? And apparently this was always the case in any event. Any likeness to any living real people, you know, is completely unfounded or whatever. And it was full of zombies and monsters. Of course, normal people don't look like that, or people don't look like that at all. But for them then to not put out the disclaimer, I think, well, you know, they're cheesing this. They are really pushing this, and they're wanting as many hits as they can possibly get.
Wow.
And I for one will give them one, because I for one will watch it.
Yes, I'll watch it.
I'll watch it too.
No, I won't.
I do think...
Well, I've never seen it. Never seen any of them.
No, but the first two seasons are brilliant.
No, they were wonderful.
Absolutely.
Doesn't float my
beautifully
boat.
done.
There
What
are no...
Dragons and Game of Thrones do.
No, I've never seen
I've never seen Game of Thrones either.
No.
What if there was a firework display in it? Would you watch it then?
No, if there was a spaceship in it, I'd watch it.
A spaceship.
Yeah. Well, it's
like
true, I
space.
would. I like my space stuff. Look, you see, I've got Doctor Who on me. Look, there's I'm mid-watching Doctor Who, not while we're on air.
Yeah.
When I get home, that's what I do.
Oh.
Can we have a look at early retirement in the Telegraph?
Yep. So
sounds good to me.
there's a huge big spread here. Now, often, as you know, print journalism now is basically on its knees because everyone gets the news on their smartphones and iPads and computers, etc. And obviously, if they watch and listen to GBNEWS. So often, we turn to newspapers for comment. And Ben Wright has got a double page spread here in the news focus of the UK. And the headline is "Work Shy and Resigning. Why early retirement is killing Britain's productivity. Now, there's two angles to this. One has been the lockdown, and it's predominantly focusing on over 50s, and it's said that lockdown has given them the opportunity to save more because they've not been able to travel, they've not been able to go to the theatre or eat out or whatever. And I know this is dealing with a particular demographic. I'm only reporting on what's on the news, it's not a comment. And then the second thing is actually COVID itself, because people have reassessed the work-life balance. And he's spoken to quite a few people. He's spoken to a midwife, he's spoken to a chap who was going to retire but didn't, but then ended up retiring because his wife had battled a 4-year cancer battle and then came through the other side. So now he's saying, well, actually, I can. And the benefits now of pensions as such has changed that you can be a bit more fluid with them and you can be a bit more inventive with them in terms of gaining income. So this is what people are doing. But it's leaving a gap in the market of talent, of reliability, of security, and of workforce.
That's everyone else move up the chain, doesn't it?
Well, that's what you
Great
would think, and
opportunity.
this is what I am getting from this, and I hope that this is actually what's going to happen. So low wages and high taxes have graduates asking what's the point. So you're talking about the low level now that are going to come up through the ranks. They're riddled with student debt plus interest rates, unless you were lucky enough to be in Europe or study in Scotland where it's free. The whole ballpark figure is changing now, and social mobility, I think, is the greatest curse still in this country today. Never mind diversity, for me it's social mobility and kids still living in poverty, and the only way out of poverty, I think, is education.
Yes.
Not about diversity, it's social mobility and education.
Oh well, a young person can have my job before too long because I want to retire.
Yeah.
So it won't be for a while.
I was going to retire and so never have quite.
No.
Let's look at COP27. King Charles, who was apparently persuaded not to go to Egypt. Well, yeah, but he's sort of doing his own thing in Buckingham Palace.
He is. He had this big reception the other night, and in the Mail is a lovely picture, which Stella McCartney, who obviously is a great friend of the King, they embraced. And there's Rishi looking on, I think he wants a relationship with Charles. He looks as though adoringly at him. But anyway, so Charles did have this summit, which I think was terrific. And of course, Rishi now has decided to go, I think.
Yes, he's done a U-turn. Already.
And I'm not so sure what I think about it. Sorry?
I think
It's appalling that he's going.
I think it's appalling he's
Yeah.
going. Because, I mean, all those aeroplanes, what happened when they were over here having things, and those huge jets
Well, it
running
was in
around.
Glasgow last year. There's no need for it to happen again this year.
And Zoom is excellent.
Yeah.
Yes,
But also, I mean, if the argument was, well, I can't go because I've got too much to focus on at home, what's changed?
What's changed?
No, he's still got that focus.
Yeah.
I tell you what's changed, it's that Boris was going.
That's it. That's the only reason
Yeah.
why he's
I think
decided
it
to go.
must be, don't you?
Yeah, I think you're
He
right.
didn't want the spotlight to land on Boris.
Absolutely, and Boris knew that too. That's why he was going.
Ego, 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 ego.
Well, it's politicians for you.
It is.
Yeah. Talking of egos, Gary Lineker.
Yes. Right, so this is a full-page spread in the Star. The BBC has named its World Cup pundit squad, and I think, I've got a huge issue with the human rights and in Qatar, and I really do not think the World Cup should be held in that country.
Here, here.
I think it's absolutely appalling. So next to, I'll come on to this in a minute, but next to the Gary Lineker thing, he's regaling here in his next attire. England fans planning to fly to Qatar for the Three Lions First World Cup have faced travel hell because there's strikes at the airports as well. Baggage handlers, nothing seems to be going right for this World Cup. And you've got the likes of Mark Chapman, Kelly Cates, Alan Shearer, Micah Richards, Rio Ferdinand, Jermaine Jenis and Alex Scott all flying out with Gary Lineker to line up, the all-star lineup, the phrase
Just
it as
the
here.
usual bunch, isn't it?
It's just, do you know what? why they have to be there. If they're so...
Money.
But you would think they were so... I mean, the BBC normally is quite virtue in signalling, right? And they like to do the right thing. And they've got all these people on board, especially Gary Lineker, who tells us we can't, we've got to watch our carbon footprint. We have to get to net zero. Best friends with Greta Thunberg.
But Gary Lineker wants half the squads to come out in Qatar, doesn't he? That was his thing. Oh, come out. If you're gay, come out. When you're over
half
there...
the squad, though, that are gay? Half the squad... I mean, is that a figure that he wants 50% of football players?
No. But just whoever he just wants people to come out during the World Cup. Which
it's hardly a safe environment for them to...
Exactly.
Unbelievable environment.
It is.
I mean, it'd be a massacre.
So hostile.
I know.
And so wrong on so many levels.
But there are the real problem is the amount of money they're throwing at it, and when I say throwing, they really are throwing. I mean, I'm not going to mention certain people who I admire tremendously are going and supporting it because they're being paid a fortune.
Yeah.
And it's wrong.
It is wrong. It's morally corrupt.
Morally
Bankrupt.
corrupt.
Yeah.
And also very uncomfortable out there because the heat is going to be a real problem. I can't wait to see who falls first.
I just don't know what's wrong with the UEFA. And the FA this weekend have signalled a weekend of, genteel clapping by the sidelines for the under-7s to the under-18s football. So if you're a parent watching someone, your son or your daughter play football, you've not to shout at them. You've not to, shout. You've just to stand and clap.
No.
Yes.
Control, isn't
all
it?
very,
It's all
very odd.
control and it's all very odd.
Talking of control, I'm taking it now.
Are you?
You two have got to stop.
Right.
It's been fun, but we're out of time. But we will see you in the next hour.
We will.
Go off,
may do.
Go off and do some laughter yoga.